Welcome back to another episode of the Brett Snodgrass podcast, and I'm really excited about my guest today. I got my good friend Dave Payerchin from Columbus, Ohio. What's going on, Dave?
What's up, everybody? Super grateful to be here. Thank you for having me on the show, Mr. Snodgrass.
I am really excited. I know this is going to be a fun episode because you are a ball of energy, and you don't have your guitar today, though. I wish
I've got it right over here. We'll wrap up the show with a little flat picking. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Well, before I get in just to kind of your highlight reel and your introduction, this is to the audience out there. Make sure you go check out the Brett Snodgrass channel on YouTube. Click that subscribe button to get all of our videos that come out each week, and I really would appreciate if you comment as well. So Dave Payerchin is a good friend of mine. He owns, with his partner RJ, Sell House Columbus. He's from Columbus, Ohio, and he's been in real estate for many, many years now. Got into it when he was 23 years old, but he has scaled his business to a very, very high level, which many entrepreneurs cannot get to. So Dave and RJ right now manage and own 130 rentals plus. They have a team of 16 people, including virtual assistants. They are completely virtual. So pandemic, no pandemic, they all work at home, and that's amazing. And right now they're flipping 8 to 10 properties a month, all virtually on autopilot. Dave, man,
yes, sir.
That's crazy. Number one, that is awesome. Super stoked for you, man. I know it's been quite the journey. I know we've been in CG together for many years now, and I've gotten to know you just as a man and got to know your heart. But I want you really just to take us back to your younger days. I want to talk about, you as a 20-year-old, maybe even as a teen. Like, what was Dave Payerchin like, and tell us about your life.
So thank you very much once again for having me on, Brett. And, I haven't really dove into my story too much in a while, so I appreciate you asking about that. And first and foremost, the real estate thing, it takes a ton of hard work, for all of your listeners. And I think we're kind of directing this conversation today towards maybe some of the people who are just getting started or the younger people. And I'm super excited to have the ability or the opportunity to positively influence anyone who's starting down this journey. Because both of us have been down this journey. It's a wonderful journey that can create freedom for you. It is going to take a lot of hard work. But starting out, I was born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio. Basically had a great childhood, just hardworking parents, Midwest parents. My dad actually worked at McDonald's while he went to nursing school. There's pictures of him wearing a McDonald's uniform and holding me as a baby, just hardworking parents. And both of my parents were registered nurses. I'm the youngest of four. Basically, I was the last one at the dinner table. I got all the hand-me-downs. And ever since I was a kid, I was kind of a risk taker. Class clown. I was actually voted, class clown in my high school. I was voted best actor because I was just an actor and most outgoing as well. So I was voted best of 3 categories in my high school, more than anybody. And it was a big high school in Cleveland. I went to Euclid High School. Never got great, good grades, never really took school seriously, but socially, I could say that I excelled socially and I got along with everybody. And Brett, something about me, I never was one to pick on anybody else. I stood up for people. That was my thing. I truly just was not into, I got along with everybody. You know how it is in high school, there's so many cliques, you got the jocks, you got the band people, you got the
theater group, the theater group.
Theater group. I was not a theater guy, but I just did one play my senior year and just knocked it out of the park, and they voted me best actor. So some people were probably a little, upset about that, who worked their entire high school career to be actor. I did one thing and got it. But I got along with everybody socially. Got along, with everybody. The rocker crowd, the skater crowd, the the hip hop crowd. So it was a big, diverse high school that I went to, and I just had a great time. And then it got to be my senior year, and everybody was kind of making plans for college. And I remember something that really struck me, Brett, was I was my senior year and I was hanging out with some friends, and everybody was talking about, like, where are you going to go to college? And it came around to me, And I'm like, I haven't even thought about it. I didn't have the grades for college. I was a C student at best. And my parents didn't have any money. I didn't have any money to go to college or anything like that. So I think I kind of freaked out a little bit during that time. I was a little bit embarrassed. I think a lot of my friends were going off to college, so I didn't know what to do. And then I got the opportunity to go do construction all the way out from Cleveland, Ohio, all the way out to Phoenix, Arizona. And I said, you know what, I'm hightailing out of here. And I think there was some like in-rooted, embarrassment there. Like, I don't have anything to do. All right, I'm moving out of state. I'm just going to go out of Arizona. So at 18 years old, I packed up and moved out to Arizona, and I stayed with a general contractor and started construction. And, basically a miracle happened in my life, a crazy experience, Brett, that I very rarely talk about. I didn't even have a car. All I had was a pair of rollerblades. And I'm rollerblading around in Arizona at an outdoor shopping thing. And I'm doing construction during the day, and then evenings I head off. So it was kind of evening, and I'm just kind of getting the lay of the land. I'd only been there for about 3 months. And I hear somebody say, Dave. And you know how it is when you hear your name, immediately you stop and look. I hear my name and I look around. I'm like, no, they can't be talking to me because, whatever. I don't know anyone here. I hear Dave, and I look, who is it? It is a exchange student that I sat next to in a keyboarding class from high school, who was an exchange student from Arizona. Her name was Aisha Barrett. If anyone ever meets her, let her know she changed my life. I've not been able to find this person, but she said to me, she's like, what are you doing here? I'm like, I just moved here. How random is that? God works in mysterious ways, Brett, as you know. So I ran into this woman, this girl, Aisha Barrett. She said, what are you doing here? I said, I'm doing construction. I want to make more money. I'm looking for a second job. She said, why don't you go do telemarketing down at the old MCI WorldCom? They'll hire anybody. You could work nights over there. So she led me. It was a miracle that I just ran into this person. She led me to MCI WorldCom, which I became a telemarketer. I didn't even know what telemarketing was. I'm 18 years old. And it turns out I became the #1 rookie out of my training class. I became one of the top people in the region for telemarketing and phone sales. And that led to me leaving my career in construction to just go full-time in sales and telemarketing. So I was 19 years old. I'm making $60,000 to $70,000 a year. And then the ego came into play. I'm like, I don't need anybody back in Cleveland. I don't need anybody, So I went through that, and then I was just motivated to make money. So I wasn't even old enough to drink or go to bars. So I started going to bookstores, and I started reading books about real estate and wealth and money. And it was all ego driven. I'll be completely upfront with you. I just wanted to show everybody who I was, because I felt inadequate leading up to this moment in my life. All through school, I never got good grades, as I mentioned, wasn't going to college, but now I was actually able to make some money. So I'm like, I let the ego take over. I started buying cars. I started buying, houses. And, this leads us, I did the telemarketing for several years. And then I went full-time into real estate, bought some courses and whatnot. But the year was 2005. Now, do you remember what was going on in the real estate market in 2005, Brett?
I mean, the only thing I can really think of, I got into real estate at the end of 2007, but everybody talks about 2005, 2006, and all I know is really expensive houses. The market was at its top. I don't know. I mean, that's all I know. It's just super expensive. All the houses are overpriced. That's about it.
So in 2005, for some of your younger listeners, and I think some of your listeners probably were born, they were probably 5 years old. They were born in 2000, So in 2005, money was flying around because they were doing what is called ninja loans. A ninja loan is no income, no job, no assets. So
fog a mirror, get money.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You walk into the bank, and a lot of these banks aren't even in business anymore. And I used to walk into a bank. No, all you do is sign a dotted line, and you walk out with approval to go buy a house. So everybody was a buyer, and when everybody's a buyer, think of the movie The Big Short, if you happen to see that movie. But when everybody's a buyer, the prices of any market or commodity or business, when everybody has the ability to buy, the prices inflate. They go up, 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 up. So I was out there thinking I'm, too cool for school, Mr. Hotshot, buying these houses with ridiculous loans, paying way too much for houses. And that was the beginning of the great financial crisis. By 2007, while you were just getting started in real estate, I was belly up, completely Chapter 7 bankrupt, had to give away all the cars, all the borrowed money. So here's a lesson for your listeners while we first get this thing kicked off. Don't confuse debt with income. Just because you can borrow money doesn't mean that you're making money. Right? Debt is not income. So I was borrowing this crazy adjustable rate mortgages, paying way too much for these houses, thinking I knew what I was doing, but it was a giant bubble. It imploded on me. And when 2007, 2008, the great financial crisis began, I had to give away a ton of properties back to the bank. When I foreclosed on numerous properties, had to go bankrupt just to protect myself. But I will share this with you. I've never not paid back a private lender. So I had one private lender during that time, and they got paid back every single dime. But that led me, after 2007, 2008, I had, was licking my wounds, and I was waiting tables at Applebee's.
Wow.
So there we go.
So I just want to stop there for a second. So number one, I think ego plays a part in us all, whether you're 20 years old, 30 years old, 40 years old. It definitely plays a part, especially when you're starting to make a lot of money. Probably it's magnified when you're 22, 23 years old, right? Because, and I was the same way. I remember, I was starting to make money. I was sitting around with my friends, my high school friends or college buddies, and I was bragging about, oh, I made X amount of dollars and I'm so cool. And my ego was just huge. So what was it like? I mean, take us back. What was the feeling like for you? You had this huge ego, buying cars, buying houses, thought, man, you're the king. Yeah. And now you're waiting tables at Applebee's, serving someone tomato soup with some riblets or whatever they're called. What was that feeling like?
The feeling was embarrassment. I was embarrassed. I was, that's an easy question to answer because I just remember feeling so ashamed, feeling so embarrassed, because I'm not the type of person to not pay my debts. I was just completely embarrassed. That's all I can really say, but I will share this. I'm also not afraid to get a job, I'm not going to go without a job. And I didn't immediately want to get back into telemarketing. I needed to get a job since I was going through that bankruptcy where I can generate cash. I needed cash in my hand because, I think there's restrictions when you're going through Chapter 7 bankruptcy. You can't make a certain amount of money or else they're going to take it all, or you don't qualify for the bankruptcy at that point, So I don't know the exacts, and hopefully I never have to know about the exacts anymore.
So what was talk about this private lender real quick too, because he said you ended up paying back the private lender. Was there ever a thought in your mind that you were like, I should just whatever, I'll not pay them back? Did that ever cross your mind?
That's an excellent question, Brett. And this individual, his name is Steve, is still one of my good friends. In fact, I got to reach out to him. He's still out there in Arizona. This guy is extremely wealthy. You would never know it because he drives a pickup truck and he owns tons of apartments. And he's the lunch pail Joe investor that has more money than all of us combined, but you would never know it. And yes, check this out. I was young and I was defaulting and bankrupt on all of these notes. And I said to him, Steve, can you work something out with me? I mean, and he said, absolutely not. You pay me back every single dime. Yeah. So he was a great mentor. Tough love. He said, no, I don't care how long it takes you. You're going to pay me back every single dime you owe me, plus the interest, because this is what it is. This is real estate. This is life, Dave. You can't just, write things off. So that lesson taught me a ton. And I still stay in touch with Steve to this day. Had lunch with him a couple months ago. He happened to be in Ohio. And yeah, I mean, we talked all about economics and money. He taught me how to use this. I don't know if you can see, but he taught me how to use a financial calculator.
Nice.
HP12C right on my desk here.
Man, old school right there.
No school,
app.
Yeah. So he was I consider my first mentor.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Yep. So let's kind of fast forward a little bit. So you paid off Steve. You're working at Applebee's. When did you get the itch to get back in real estate?
I never lost the itch, but going through my, speculation bubble time of, everybody's making money in real estate taught me that I don't want to be a speculator anymore. I want to be a cash flow investor. So, in 2011, I started working for a real estate education company since I did have a background in real estate and I was helping them sell their books and courses and tape. Since I had the background in sales and I had the background in real estate, started selling books and courses for a different real estate education company. And I knew I wanted to get back into real estate, but I knew I wanted to be in cash flow real estate, not just this speculation real estate. I learned that from all.
Now, when you say speculation, can you describe what that is?
Absolutely. So speculation real estate is things are just going to keep going up. And that's what it felt like in 2005. I need to buy another house because it's just going to keep going up.
So like if I buy one this year for $100,000, next year it's going to be worth $120.
Absolutely more. Back in 05, it'll be worth $200.
Yeah.
This is what it was. Yeah, it was nuts, man. So I could just keep buying and selling. It doesn't matter what I pay. I'm going to be able to sell it for more.
Wow.
That is speculation at its finest.
Do you think that people are counting on that today?
Without a doubt. Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Bitcoin's pure speculation. We'll get into that.
Yeah.
But I think with the market the way it is today, it's different because the money is different. The interest rates are so low and they're artificially low. We shouldn't have interest rates as low as they are. We can kind of get into that when we get into the more macro economy. But it's different now. People are paying ridiculous prices for houses, without a doubt. I mean, we're selling stuff here in Columbus, Ohio, that we paid $25,000 for back in 2013, 14, and we're selling for $145,000 right now.
Wow.
I'm not kidding. So yes, people are paying ridiculous prices, but it's fueled because of the low interest rate.
The money's different. Yeah, you can't.
Money's different, and these are fixed rate, low interest loans are much less risky than the loans that I got involved with back in 05.
Wow. So talk to us about you got back into real estate. Let's continue there. You met RJ. He's your partner now.
That's right. So I met RJ back in I want to say probably 2011. And we met at a real estate seminar. I was working for the real estate education company, and he was brought up as a testimonial. And they said, "Oh, there's this guy from Ohio." And we were still in our 20s at that time. And I said, "Oh, I want to go meet this guy because he's an Ohio guy. I'm an Ohio guy." And we just became friends in 2011. I continued selling the real estate education stuff up until 2013. And then in 2013, me and RJ stayed friends for those years, and we said, "Hey, let's start buying cash flow properties." So I quit my job with the real estate information company and moved to Columbus, Ohio full time. And we had a plan to start buying rental properties. That's where it began.
Wow. That's awesome. I know you guys have done so much together, and just an amazing partnership. You guys, I look up to you guys so much. And so since then, in the last 7-8 years, again, guys, 130 properties, rental cash flow properties. They're flipping 8 to 10 properties a month now, 16 person team doing everything completely virtual. And I would just want to kind of just kind of kick us off and just kind of change directions here a little bit, because I want to kind of go back to the young guys. I really want to gear this show towards the young crowd out there. So Dave, you're very vocal on social media. I love watching your stuff. It's like Dave in a car.
I'm on a break right now. I'm on. It's been 5 days. I'm on a hiatus right now, Brett, and it's been very cleansing. I'm not saying I'm gone forever, but no, I do have quite the reputation for sure.
No, that's awesome, and I love just your topics that you talk about. You're real, you're raw, and so many amazing things. And I want you to kind of talk to the young crowd out there, the young entrepreneurs. So when I list your highlight reel, it sounds amazing. And I want you to talk about your journey with that. I mean, has it always been like this straight line, like just up and up and up? Like what have you gone through? Talk to the young guys about
Yes.
what it takes to get to your level.
So it has definitely not been a straight line up. And I think any entrepreneur will tell you the same. It's been extremely difficult. I'm surprised we've made it this far. And without a great business partner like RJ, there's no way I would have made it this far on my own. There's been numerous opportunities. We were just trying to keep the lights on. And to the young entrepreneurs, I'll give some age-old wisdom. I got some gray hairs. I don't know if you can see the video. I got some gray coming in. Every single one of these gray hairs you see is a deal that's imploded or a month that we didn't know how we were going to keep the lights on. So cash flow properties. I knew I wanted to get into cash flow properties, and we started buying rentals. A good lesson to know is you can't eat equity. So, you could find great deals on houses and, raise money. We used to borrow 12% money to buy rental properties. We weren't financeable to get loans from banks, Brett. So when we first started building our portfolio, we were borrowing private money from, our network, people in our network, and we were paying 12% for this money. So our payment was very high. So we were barely squeaking out a cash flow on a lot of these properties. And our goal was, hey, let's buy as many properties as we possibly can. But what we found is, hey, we got a great deal. Maybe we're all in 50 cents on the dollar for this property, but we're barely squeaking out a cash flow. So focus on your cash flow, especially when you're first getting started. And we were very anti-flip, like, oh, we don't want to flip properties. We just want to build the biggest portfolio as we possibly can. Well, let me tell you, everybody, you got to have a balance. So flipping properties is going to allow you to, be liquid, have cash in the bank. And that's going to allow you to get better terms on money. If I could do it all over again, I would have flipped a lot more in the early days and then kind of, slowly built the portfolio. We jumped right into these cash flow properties, and that is a ton of work. Dealing with the tenants, dealing with the maintenance, dealing with the repairs, barely squeaking out a cash flow, and then not having the liquidity to get better terms on money. So wholesaling is very important. It's a very good tool. And it's a tool in the real estate investor toolbox. And you want to keep that tool, use that tool, and build your liquidity, and then build a portfolio while you're continuing to wholesale. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's definitely. I just want to kind of ask you, because it seems like when I surround myself with real estate investors, they're either cash flow investors, where they're doing rentals, apartment buildings, cash flow investors, or they're flippers. You don't see a lot of guys doing a mixture of both, and you're talking about doing a mixture of both. Like your goal was to have passive cash flow, but you thought that not flipping properties was, hurt you guys because of the liquidity. Yeah. Right? And I tell people all the time, like, I want to get these rentals, and it's hard to get money, right? You're squeaking out $100 a month maybe on a house or a door. And then you're trying to hire people. Well, how are you going to pay these people because it's so slim? Is that basically what you're saying?
100%. You got to do both, in my opinion, But what a lot of people run into, Brett, and for the young listeners out there, they build a wholesale company and it's great and they're making money. But we got to remember, wholesaling income is treated as earned income. So it's highly taxed. And then when you're taking your profits from your wholesaling business, using it to hire people, using it for more marketing to bring in more wholesale deals, it can turn into a hamster wheel really quickly. Yeah. So, and then you get a big tax bill at the end of the year. Yeah. So, it's about flipping properties, but not getting so comfortable to where you build this wholesaling machine and then you never start acquiring assets because you're so comfortable flipping. But really, it's just a giant hamster wheel. And then when the party stops, you're left with nothing. Yeah. Because it's a wholesaling business. And very well, you own a massive wholesaling business. It's not a saleable business. So you cannot give this wholesaling business to, you can't sell the company. It's not like an auto repair shop where you have a book of business that you built and then you sell it to another entrepreneur who's going to step in and take over those customers. We don't have repeat customers in a wholesaling business. The only repeat customers are not the sellers, because we're generating these seller leads, but a seller is not going to be a repeat customer. Maybe you get a referral once in a while. The only repeat customers in a wholesaling business are your buyers, but they don't care about you whatsoever. They're just going to shop the best. They're not loyal to you. Like, we're only going to buy to you. They're going to buy the best deal that they possibly can get their hands on. But you got to keep in mind, wholesaling is not a saleable business. It's not a transferable business where you're going to give it to your daughter or son here, and it's this book of business. No. So it is simply a tool, and it needs to be treated in that way to generate cash flow and liquidity, that you can use that liquidity to get good terms on money to start acquiring cash flowing assets. That is the play.
Yeah. No, I love it. And I actually learned the hard way. I mean, I was always a big flipper, big wholesaler, built this massive wholesaling company, like you said, Dave. But then you're right. I mean, I get this massive tax bill, and I write this $100,000 check to the government, and I'm like, man, like, what if I could keep that $100,000? And I started asking my accountants and CPA. I said, hey, how do I keep this $100,000 instead of paying it to the government? Because yeah, this is $100,000 now today, but what if I held that $100,000? What's it going to be worth in 20 years? I mean, that's what we're talking about. And that's how you build massive wealth. And they said, well, you buy rentals and you buy assets, and you play the game. And that's exactly, I love what you said about that tax break. Sometimes I've been really big on that right now about saving money on taxes, because that's going to be every business owner's biggest expense. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be if you play the game. And it's about, buying cash flow rentals. So it's all, obviously you get this cash flow rentals, but you save so much money on taxes. So I love what you said on that, Dave. So I want you to talk to the other, so let's just go back. So you're talking about having an active business, having a passive business. You're partners with RJ, and you see a lot of young people. I'm sure a lot of people reach out to you. They kind of follow you. You're very active, like I said, on social media. You got your YouTube channel going now. You're driving in the car, and you're talking to a lot of young people. Plus, we're in some mastermind group. We're in a Collective Genius, the mastermind group together. There's a lot of young 20-year-olds in there. Yeah. So, like, what do you see young people do that you're like, oh man, that's not going to work. That's a mistake. Like, so talk to the young people. What are some of the mistakes you're seeing those 20-something, 30-something-year-olds making?
It's an excellent question. And for your listeners, just to put a lid on our last topic, the tax benefits that we were talking about from owning rental properties, this is called accelerated depreciation, or called cost segregation. So I encourage you all to research this. And it's essentially writing off losses against your active income. So owning rental properties allows you to write off a tremendous amount of losses. So the way you want to do this, to the listeners out there, is when you're owning assets, so create a wholesaling business to have liquidity, use that liquidity as down payments for low interest fixed rate debt against affordable real estate. Affordable housing real estate is the strongest asset class. You don't want to be too in the rough neighborhoods, and certainly you don't want to be in too high end where you're not going to create a cash flow. But when you're using leverage, good leverage, to own these assets, then you're going to write off the losses against these rental properties against your wholesaling income. Mm-hmm. That's how it works. So it's this balance. So what I see a lot of new wholesalers, or just in young people. And by the way, I love the young people. We go to CG now. That's where I hang. I'm hanging with the 20-year-olds. They're my favorite people to be around. I think a biggie is kind of just what we're talking about, where all they do is wholesale, and they're phenomenal at it. But if they're not taking the time to understand how to acquire and hang on to some assets, you could find yourself now in your 30s looking back like, heck, what if I would have held on to some of those houses? The biggest regret I see from real estate investors is, I wish I would have held on to more. You've heard it in your business as well. Would you agree?
Yes, exactly. I mean, I'm just like you. I remember back in 08, 09 buying houses for $10,000 and now they're selling for 200. It's crazy. I wish that we would have held on those. And I think I sold them for 13, you know? So,
Yeah.
so definitely that's crazy.
But also I'll share this. I mean, but you had to sell it for 13 because you had to keep the lights on. There's
Yeah.
this dance that we play.
Yeah.
You know, there's always hindsight's always, 2020. You can look back and say, "Oh, I wish."
Yeah, I wish I would have bought Bitcoin 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, I
don't know about that.
But so the biggest thing that I have for young people is this: find a mentor that you align with your core values, and instead of add as much value to this mentor as you possibly can and expect nothing in return except for the knowledge that you're going to gain. Like I had mentioned, I had a guy, Steve, and I used to put out signs for Steve, with Steve, we buy houses signs because he was my lender. So if you're just getting started, forget about all the stuff we're talking about, cost segregation, financing, ninja loans, this and that. Just find a mentor. Find somebody like Brett. Find somebody like myself that you align your core values with, and then approach them and add as much value to this person as you possibly can and expect nothing in exchange except for the training and the learning. Because it's not going to happen from one podcast. You're not going to listen to this podcast and then automatically figure it out. Yeah. You've got to find a mentor. You got to add as much value to them as you give first, right? Give first, and then, see what comes out of that. But work for free. That's advice for a young person. Like, be okay working for free. Life is not all Instagram reels and, the hot car. A lot of that is debt anyway. I mean, you see people where, maybe they have a lot of stuff. Well, think about this. Somebody who's a big time wholesaler who doesn't own a lot of assets, think about it. Maybe they're wholesaling a ton, they're generating a ton of cash. Well, they're going to have a huge tax bill on that. And if they're just using that cash to not acquire assets, but to acquire stuff, well, that stuff is going down in value, not up in value.
I call it crap, actually.
Okay, fair. I don't know the extent of what we're allowed to get away with. I call it something else.
You can say it too. But I want to ask you this. So you just put out a video on Facebook, and it was actually about you got to add value. And you were talking to people about you got to add value. And I know that's big. Actually, I was looking at your email, and like one of your emails is always add value. So when I think of Dave, like you've been preaching this for years. Like you have to add value. So the young person out there, you said, stop working for money, work for free, or work to learn. Yeah. Right? Learning, it's going to be so much further for the rest of your life than working for that paycheck. Like, what are some other ways that a young person can add value now?
Well, first off, to continue the conversation on working for free, a young person must realize, and even it's not even just young people, everybody needs to realize consumption is not production, right? You must be a producer of value. You must produce. You must, you can't sit around all day and hope something's going to happen, right? Hope is not a business model or a strategy. So ways to add value, if there's a local landlord or a local real estate entrepreneur, be willing to do anything for them. Be their assistant, be their administrative assistant, be willing to work and produce results. Don't, it's so foolish to just approach anyone. And I'm sure people have approached you as well, Brett, where it's like, hey, I want to learn from you. I want to take you out for coffee. You want to take me out for coffee? I don't want your coffee. I mean, okay. That's not production, right? What can you do for me? I'm not trying to sound like, some evil business person where it's like, what can you do for me? But a young person should approach an entrepreneur that way. What can I do for you? How can I add value to you rather than, I want to take you out for coffee and pick your brain. When I hear pick your brain, I hear waste my time.
Yeah.
Right.
You're like, I might as well just pick my butt.
Right. Oh, I want to pick your brain. Well, okay, what do you want to pick my brain on? What could you possibly want to pick my brain about? It's such a terrible way to approach an entrepreneur.
That is,
No,
yeah.
instead, approach them and say, what can I do for you? I admire what you've been able to accomplish. I want to learn more from you, but I'm not approaching you in such a way where, hey, let me pick your brain and will you teach me? Absolutely not. What can I do for you? Right? How can I add value to you, to your enterprise? I'll go get your car washed for you. I'll do anything for you. I just want to be here every single day at 8 a.m. and you tell me what to do and I'm going to do it for you. You add enough value, that entrepreneur is going to give you the whole world, give you everything.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. I want you, so you mentioned Steve. I want to get back to Steve. And you mentioned he was a millionaire, had a lot of money, very wealthy person. Yeah. And he drove a pickup truck. And didn't look like a millionaire. This reminded me of a book that I read, really changed my life. It was in around 2007 when I came into real estate. And it was a book called The Millionaire Next Door. And it was really about that, where a guy studied very wealthy people, millionaires, and he had this party and he bought all this expensive wine and expensive things, and nobody wanted any of that, because the millionaire next door, really, you don't even know that they're a millionaire. They're literally living in the $100,000 or $200,000 house next door, and you wouldn't ever know it. They drive a used Ford, things like that. So I want you, and it's funny because when I watch YouTube videos for young people, entrepreneurs, typically it is the guy sitting on the Lambo in the mansion, chilling out on their second vacation home on the beach, whatever that looks like. So, and you don't seem like that type of person, right? Nope. So, but maybe you used to be. It sounded like you used to be when you were in your 20s. So talk to the young person about, what does it take, and talk to them about money. And you talked about consumption, and that's all consuming, right? So talk to him about that. Like, what have you seen? Like, talk about Steve, talk about yourself. Like, how do you make it with the money?
Well, that's an excellent question. And we live in a time right now. We live in a very unique time, Brett, and I'm seeing this. And I have the luxury to be a little bit older now and have been through market cycles. So what happened after the coronavirus pandemic is the Federal Reserve and the U.S. government passed what is called the U.S. CARES Act, where they printed, $3 trillion. And now we got another 1.9 coming, over $3 trillion. So what happened in the latest, in recent history is the money supply, the supply of what's called M2, the money supply has increased by over 25%. Think about that. Think of the global money supply as being 4 quarters and then taking a whole nother quarter and putting it on the money supply. That's a drastic amount, right? Yeah. Now they're going to take another couple dimes and throw it in there too. So all of this money is being created out of thin air. Everybody's got money right now. Everybody's got money. Stimulus money's coming out. The stock market's exploding. Every cryptocurrency is exploding. Bond yields are now going up. It's just, money is everywhere. So to the young person who's just starting out in business, just know that a lot of this money is just, printed money. So where everybody's playing with house money. And when you're playing with house money, you're a little bit looser with your betting, right? So I compare right now in today's time to 2002. Do you remember in 2002 when the World Series of Poker was like the biggest thing?
Oh, yes. I was in college and literally ESPN every day.
Everybody was a poker player. Yeah. And everybody was a poker player too. And everybody was like a professional poker player. Oh, yeah, I'm good at. Everybody thought they were good at poker. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah. We had my friends over. We'd all play poker, throw down, all in.
Texas Hold'em. And before it blew up, nobody even knew what Texas Hold'em was. Yeah. Right? But everybody was getting involved in poker. So right now, everybody's getting involved with investing, whether it be cryptocurrency, whether it be real estate, whether it be stocks, because everybody's a genius. Everybody knows what they're doing. But at the end of the day, when it comes to the poker thing, there's the old dog. You can't teach an old dog new tricks, right? And all these new people come to the poker table, but eventually it's the same old dogs who end up taking everybody else's money, right? So right now, we live in a time where everybody's an expert. Everybody's making money and it feels good. It's a big party right now, but we are so riddled with debt as a society. It is a giant bubble. It's a giant financial bubble. So we can get into that conversation. Brett, right now, the amount of consumption debt has never been higher. The trade deficit for our great country has never been higher. America is not great again by any means whatsoever. Financially and fiscally, monetarily, we are getting destroyed by the rest of the world. Because what do? We print money as a country and then buy other people's stuff. We don't produce anything. We're not producing. Well, the only thing we produce is printed money. Yeah. And then our biggest export right now is shipping out these worthless US dollars for other people's hard work in production. So what I would say to young people is it feels good right now. It feels great. Everybody's making money. Look at the stock market all-time highs. Look at Bitcoin all-time highs. Look at real estate all-time highs. But it is all debt. It is 100% debt because every single dollar that's printed needs to get paid for somehow. There's no free lunch. So every single dollar that gets printed needs to get paid for, and it's going to get paid for on the backs of American workers in the form of taxes. And
we're paying it, or our kids are paying it, and it's funny because you're exactly right. Like I was listening to Gary Vee the other day, and he was talking to a group of entrepreneurs, and he said, if you're not killing it right now as an entrepreneur, you suck. Like, which is crazy because it's just everybody thinks that they're an expert right now because it's just really easy. And even in 2020, I mean, the government's sending me money and I'm getting all this money and I'm like, well, thanks. Cool. I guess. Thank you.
And that's why you're willing to bet a little looser when it's free money. What happened to the majority of people? Hey, I mean, think of all the Robin Hood traders, right? They get a stimulus check and they put it right into Tesla stock. Yeah. They get a stimulus check and they buy Bitcoin because when it's not money that you worked hard for, you're willing to gamble. Yeah. Right.
Just gamble.
So what I would caution young people about is, look, not just because the market keeps going up, it doesn't mean you know what you're doing. And I'm not even saying that I know what I'm doing. I'm actually being fiscally conservative. I made some money in this bull run that we had. I invested in the stock market and let it all go up, but I'm taking chips off the table. So don't be afraid to take profits off the table. Eventually the party ends. I'm not calling for a crash. I'm not calling for anything. In fact, I think we can go on a bull run for quite a while, as long as they're continuing to print money. I don't know how things are going to not continue to go up, but eventually you can only kick the can down the road for so long before you got to pay the bill.
Yes, definitely. And I love it when you said, hey, the party will end. And I think some people think the party's never going to end. It's just going to keep going. But, for me too, it's like, yeah, this is a lot of fun. We're having a great party. This is amazing. But I'm watching the clock and thinking, okay, this is going to be over. The party will end at some point. Nobody knows exactly when.
And there's a great quote out there, and always remember this. Look, no one ever went broke taking a profit, taking some money off the table. Right now, here's an interesting statistic for you. There is more 401k millionaires than any time in history. There's more Bitcoin millionaires than any time in history, right? No one ever went broke making a profit. So don't be afraid to take some chips off the table at this poker. I like the poker analogy, right? Because you remember poker.
I do.
Everybody's a card player. Oh yeah, he's good. No one even knew what Texas Hold'em was until it got popular, and now everybody's a professional poker player, right?
Do you remember that movie Rounders?
I love Rounders.
Yeah, man, the Russian.
Yeah. So what I would caution everyone is don't be afraid to take some money off the table. And, sitting on a little cash is not a bad thing. You don't have to stay invested in these overpriced stocks, overpriced speculation crypto. And I think the strongest asset class right now, the best trade on the street is, buying affordable real estate with good leverage meaning low interest, long-term debt. You don't want, these adjustable rate mortgages. There's a lot of 20-year mortgages out there right now. We are locking in as much low interest 30-year money as we possibly can, because look, this is the ultimate inflation hedge. Now, this is something we can talk about. When crypto first came out, Brett, when Bitcoin first came out, it was called a cryptocurrency, right? Yeah. Now the Bitcoin hodlers, and I'm not a fan of Bitcoin for your listeners, only because it's complete speculation, right? Mm-hmm. And the concept of Bitcoin is brilliant, a finite monetary system. That's how it should be. And they got it right as far as the concept. However, it used to be called this cryptocurrency, but now it's been proven it can't be used as a currency. It's very inefficient. It takes more electricity than the entire country of Argentina. It produces more pollution than the entire country of New Zealand just to, keep this network running. Mm-hmm. It can't be used as a currency. So now they're not even calling it a cryptocurrency anymore. The narrative has changed. And now they're calling it a storage of value because everybody's talking about inflation, because we're talking about printing money like it's going out of style. So everybody has this fear of inflation, and inflation has started. I mean, look at copper prices are reaching new highs. Lumber prices have hit a historic new high. Mm-hmm. I mean, go to the Home Depot, look what a 2x4 costs right now, right? Beans in the teens, beans are going to be in the 20. So look at the commodities markets, and that's how you see prices are going up. So everybody knows, and people are just learning right now, inflation, they're just learning what it is right now. Inflation is a hidden tax, and it makes the prices go up on everything around us. And it's already happening. Look at the commodities market. But now they're talking about Bitcoin. It's like, this is a storage of value. This is a hedge against inflation. It is not a hedge against inflation because there's no use to it. Mm-hmm. So you got to own something, and inflation is peeking its head out. Look at the stock market. That's inflation. Look at real estate prices. That's inflation, right? But when you own real estate and you could use other people's money, like the bank's money, to control assets that produce a positive cash flow, as inflation happens, the value of the dollar goes down. So when you can lock in a fixed rate, mortgage, like 30-year mortgage, the dollars that you're using to pay for this cash flowing asset are going down in value, and your payment doesn't change. So if your payment is $500 a month, the $500 that you're paying today is worth more than the $500 that you're paying 15 years from now. Those same dollars are worth less. So it's really like you're paying $350 a month. So I encourage everyone to buy as much affordable cash flowing real estate with low interest, long-term debt. That is going to be your best play for the inflation hedge, not Bitcoin. And then stocks are completely overpriced right now. Don't be afraid to take money off the table. If you own Bitcoin, you made a lot of money, or if you own stocks, I would highly consider taking that money out, take those profits and use it towards a down payment for a low interest, long-term mortgage against an asset that produces a positive cash flow. And I'm partial to single family houses because there's the most use out of single family. You could rent it, you could Airbnb it, you can live in it, right? So stay away from real estate that has very few exit strategies, like an ice cream shop or something like that.
No, I love it. And I think that if you don't take the chips off the table, literally I used to be a big gambler, blackjack tables, right? And that was the same thing. And if you just keep putting it out there, eventually you will lose, right? I think that's a truth. So thank you so much, Dave. This has been an amazing show. And we're going to kind of wind down here as we're kind of running a little bit short on time. But one thing I want to really hit home is, when I look at you do like to stir the pot, and sometimes you can say things just to kind of get people riled up, get people going. But I think beneath all of that, you have a huge heart. We went on a missions trip a couple years ago to Guatemala together, and just got to really to see your heart light up, your heart shine. I know you and RJ and your company has raised thousands of dollars for charities, and you've been able to give away. You give back your knowledge and your wisdom. Actually, there was a post that you put out there on Facebook. It said, "Don't hold back," and you had tears in your eyes about a kid that you had met at I think a local restaurant, and you were talking about that. So let's just talk about that a little bit. Talk to the young guys out there, the message behind don't
Sure.
hold back. What does that mean?
Well, what I would say to young people, especially if you're, you don't have to go to college. That the context of that particular conversation, it really struck me because this person was embarrassed. He was making my sandwich at a local sandwich shop, and he was embarrassed to tell me that he wanted to get into the trades and that he couldn't go to college. He didn't have the money or, education to go to college because he was taking care of his young daughter. I think this kid was probably 16 or 17 years old. And it really struck me because I was like, look, man, people are programmed to think you have to go to college to be successful. That's a terrible, you don't have to go to college. College is completely overpriced. Many degrees are absolutely worthless. If you want to be a specialist like a doctor or a dentist or something where you need specialized education, yes, go to the proper school to get that. But don't feel you need to go to college, and don't be afraid to get into the trades. Construction, the cost of labor has never been higher, and you can be a specialist. This individual, he wanted to get into HVAC, and I said, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
So if you're contemplating, and if everyone around you, if you're a young person listening to this right now, and everyone around you is telling you, you got to go to college, what college you're going to go to, look, you don't have to go to college. In fact, college, in many cases, is going to stick you with a ton of debt and a worthless degree. Find an entrepreneur, find a mentor, work with Brett, listen to Brett's podcast, find us, right? Find an entrepreneur. Don't be afraid to get into the trades, and don't be afraid to get into real estate. I think real estate is going to be your very best play. I think a lot of kids these days, think that they have to go to college to be successful. And there's a little bit of shame if they don't go to college. But I'm here to tell everybody that there are many other options than going to college.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I have an elementary education degree, by the way, that I've never used, and spent, I played basketball in college, so I didn't spend that much money on it. But I think that the other thing too is like when you do get that degree, you feel like you have to use it. You're like, oh my gosh, I spent this much money, this much debt because of this degree, so I have to use this degree, and people get stuck. And that's the thing that I've realized.
Why? Hey, Brett, and for all your listeners, do you know why college is so expensive?
I do not. Bitcoin.
Well, basically, yeah. No, it's because the government's involved.
Yeah.
And I encourage all the listeners out there to start researching, when it comes to politics, be a libertarian, be for the people. Research being a libertarian, but, the government, anything the government gets involved with, Brett, makes it less efficient, less quality, and more expensive. And when the government began backing student loans, the student loan companies and the college universities, what did they do? Jacked up the prices. Why not? Because when they know they're guaranteed to get the money because the government is subsidizing these loans, right? The universities are like, you morons, the government's going to guarantee us. Why not make it 10 times more expensive? Because we're guaranteed to get the money. And then student loans are a giant fraud, right? Because the kids cannot get rid of this debt. Even if a child with student loan debt was to pass away, the debt's going on to their parents. So this is guaranteed money. The debt is never going to go away. So therefore, when the government got involved with the subsidizing of student loans, the universities jacked the price and screwed everybody.
And you can't ever, you talked about bankruptcy too. You can't do that with student loans.
You can't even BK it. Yeah. So let's think about this for you young listeners out there. Before you choose a political party and you're thinking, oh, I'm red or I'm blue, I'm this and that. The government makes everything worse. Okay, the government was put into place to protect the people, and the government does nothing. It's way too big. So let's think about it. Healthcare. You pay Medicaid. If you got a W-2 job, you pay Medicare, Medicaid. What has happened to the cost of healthcare in our country when the government got involved?
Actually, let me talk about that real quick because so my son, he has to go. He has this intensive eating therapy. He's in it right now. This is the third week. It's very intense, and he's in his children's hospital right now. And we had Christian health sharing. Didn't pay that much money, anyways, because it was psychological. We had to go with the government healthcare, and for my family, for the government healthcare, I pay $2,300 a month.
Yeah,
that's me. That's crazy. That's like double my mortgage. Like just ridiculous. So
anything. So to all the listeners out there, before you go choosing a political party, just know that both sides of the coin are bad.
Yeah.
And the bigger the government is, the more expensive everything is. Look at food, the quality of the food, the FDO, it's FDA approved. America's more obese than ever before, right? We're going down in quality.
Really
Education,
fat.
more expensive, and we're dumber than ever before. Healthcare, more expensive, poor quality than ever before, right?
Exactly.
So it's an absolute nightmare. And research being a libertarian, I encourage your listeners to.
Love it, love it. Dave, thank you so much again for all of your advice, all of your feedback. To all the young entrepreneurs out there, make sure you go check out Dave Payerchin. Check him out on Facebook. He's always driving in his car with his dog in the back, and it's a hoot, but it's so much wisdom. Dave, we're going to end today's show a little bit interesting. So like I said, you like to stir the pot. You stir up a little bit of controversy. You're always poking the bear with other people on, social media. So I actually created this section just for you. It's called
Perfect.
Controversial Questions with Dave. And so I got 5. We'll see how much time we got. We got 5 or 6 questions here, but you got 2 minutes or 1 minute, however long you need to take, but don't make these too long.
1 minute.
1 minute. 1 minute answers for Dave Payerchin on Controversial Questions with Dave. Dave, so number 1, give us your feedback on Bitcoin.
Bitcoin is a massive bubble. It's completely speculative. And the majority of the mining that takes place, which is the verification of transactions on the blockchain, happens in corrupt countries. 65% of the mining happens in China. Another 5 to 7% happens in Russia and Belarus. These are communist, mafia-run places. I think it's completely manipulated. I think giant big whales are trading Bitcoin back and forth to drive the price up. It's called painting the tape. And I think it is going to absolutely implode. It's already been proven that it can't be used as a currency. And that's why the narrative has changed, that it's now a storage of value. It will never be a storage of value. It's highly volatile. And if you have money in Bitcoin, I think you should sell it immediately. And I think in our lifetime, when it becomes not cool anymore, we're going to see it go to zero.
Awesome. I actually read this quote on Dave's Facebook page. Bitcoin is like the Beanie Baby craze of the 90s. The main difference is that Beanie Babies are worth more.
They are. You can at least cuddle with a Beanie Baby. What can you do with a Bitcoin, Brett? What do? You can't charge your phone with it. All you can do is look at it. You can't do anything with it. Beanie Babies are absolutely worth more than Bitcoin.
Love it. All right. Number 2, give us your feedback on the 2020 election results and what's happening in the government.
Sure. I figured Trump was going to be a one-termer simply because he ran in 2016. Trump ran on the premise of like, make America great again. We're going to, drain the swamp and whatnot. Well, he didn't do any of that. Basically, people got excited at the end of Trump's presidency. He passed, or he was against a bill that had a bunch of pork in the bill and funding these other countries. Well, does anyone realize that Trump passed the most bills of any president up until like 1912? He was rubber stamping pork for 4 years. He didn't do any of what he said he was going to do. We're going to win so much that, we're going to get sick of winning. We're going to win the trade wars. Well, we're worse off. The trade deficit has increased. We didn't drain the swamp. So I figured Trump was going to lose simply because he did not fulfill any of the promises that he ran on in 2016. And Joe Biden won. I mean, is he the president? I don't know. Is he the one pulling the strings? I don't know. I don't get too much into the conspiracies, but I predicted Joe Biden to win simply because nothing came into fruition that Trump ran on in 2016. I'm against either party. I think Republicans are the new Democrats and Democrats are the new socialists. And I highly encourage everyone to look into the Libertarian Party, make government small again. And that's what we need to do. Protect the people, take less out of your paychecks from Medicare, Social Security, taxes. The government, either side of the coin, is taking your money. And, that's my stance.
Awesome. So. Is there a future in politics for Dave Payerchin?
Absolutely not.
All right. All right. All right. Number three, are we sitting on an economic bubble?
Definitely. So we've been in a bubble since the great financial crisis back in '07, '08, when they began what's called quantitative easing, QE. And they started, so think about what happened back in the financial bubble. In the great financial crisis, they bailed out all the banks with printed money, right? Bailed out all the airlines after 9/11, all this printed money. So nobody has to feel the repercussions of like bad business decisions. Like the reason all these banks failed and the reason the airlines failed after 9/11, all this stuff is because, they didn't have any money in reserves, right? In our country does not have any money in reserves. They call it like the Treasury, Secretary of the Treasury. There's no treasure in the Treasury. It's a pile of debt, right? So none of these companies have any cash on their balance sheet. So basically, nobody has to, feel the pain of bad decisions because the government's just going to bail you out. So that's why we've seen nothing but a giant bull run, really since, the great financial crisis back in '08. But even before that, I mean, the markets, the equities markets, the stock markets have just been charging along because it's all fueled on printed money. But remember, our trade deficit has never been higher. And we are not producing anything but more US dollars. And the US dollar is the reserve currency for the world. But eventually, when you print enough of it, it goes down in value. I think we're headed for a dollar crisis that we'll see in our lifetime. And yes, I think without a doubt we've been in a financial bubble, and then this latest round of printing money, and now we just got 1.9 trillion passed that it's going to be hitting the streets. So eventually, we'll have to pay for it. But yes, I think we've been in a financial bubble for a long time, and it stems from the printing of US dollars.
Awesome, man. All right. Yes or no? Would you buy Tesla stock right now?
Definitely not. So Tesla stock is massively overpriced. That is probably one of the most overpriced stocks on the street. And Tesla is priced, it's got a price to earnings ratio of, last time I checked, and I've been distant from research lately, and I've been taking a break from everything because I've been off of Facebook. I'm kind of focused on my own stuff. But the last time I checked, the PE ratio, price to earnings ratio for Tesla, was over 1,300. So what that means is you pay $1,300 for every $1 of earnings that this company actually produces. So when it comes to stock investing, you want to have the lowest price to earnings ratio as possible, because that's the price that you're paying for against their earnings. You want a low PE ratio. So Tesla is priced as if they're going to own 50% of all the automobile market share at some point. They're priced as if they own that much of the market share. They're never going to own that much of the market share. Think of all the car companies in Japan, India, Germany. Tesla is a very, very minuscule company in the grand scheme of things, but they are priced as if they own 50% of the market share. They are never going to own 50% of the market share. It is massively overpriced, and it's like a cult. It's like a cult following, like Bitcoin.
All right. All right. Sounds good. All right, Dave, last question, man. I know this is a hot topic for you, and you've actually done some debates on this with other guys in the real estate space, but single family rentals versus apartment buildings. Go.
Sure. I think single family rentals provides more exit strategies. So therefore, you can't, when you're building a portfolio, there's times when you need to create cash, and you can create that cash by selling off onesie, twosie properties here and there. We've done it numerous times when you have to raise cash. So I prefer single family investing, not to mention there's way more of them out there. You can diversify so much better. Not to mention when you're raising private capital for a single family home, it's much safer for the private lender, because when there's one lender and one borrower secured against this asset, it's not like a syndication. With these big apartment buildings, a lot of times it's, a lot of people putting money into this fund that you create, a syndication. And if things go bad on that one deal, it's going to be a lot harder for that private lender to get their money out. So I think building a single family rental portfolio, it's going to take longer, Okay, it's going to take longer. The scalability it can't be matched when it comes to buying a large apartment building. I'll give them that. However, I think it's much safer and more exit strategies. The same financing, one could argue it's like, well, you can get non-recourse debt for commercial. You can get it for single family as well. So for those reasons, I take single family.
Awesome. Love it, Dave. That's the end of the question round with controversial questions with Dave. Thank you so much. Dave, where can someone find you? Where are you at?
Sure. So you can find me on Instagram. I'm at The Real Dave P. And then you can find us online. We have a website that we are producing a lot of content and putting it out. It's risewiththecream.com.
Awesome. And you guys just came out with a YouTube channel?
We did, yeah. And I believe it's The Cream or it's Dave and RJ Real Estate. I'm not exactly sure. All I do is I'm just the talking head.
You're just the actor, man.
I didn't even realize they launched the YouTube. But I am more kind of the camera guy, producing the content, doing the research for everything we talk about. But yes, we're on YouTube as well. I think it's the best thing you can do is follow RJ. Follow RJ Pepino. It's RJ Pepino. He is way better at the social media stuff than I am. And follow RJ on Instagram, RJ Pepino, and on TikTok. I don't know if you knew this, Brett. RJ has like 120,000 followers on TikTok. RJ Pepino.
I did not know that. I'm gonna have to follow RJ. I'm not a big TikToker, but I'll have to ask my teenager how to do that. So sounds good. Well, this is a wrap with Dave Payerchin. Dave, thank you so much, man. It's been a blast. And make sure you guys check out RJ Pepino or Dave Payerchin on all the social media channels. And Dave, thanks, man. God bless you, buddy.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for checking out the Brett Snodgrass channel. If you like this video, please slam on that like button. And if you really like it, then subscribe to our channel here. And remember to leave us a comment below, and I'm going to try my hardest to reply to all the comments. Thank you guys so much. This is why I do what I do. Every single week, I come out with content that focuses on success, freedom, and living out your purpose. Thank you guys so much. See you next time.